Let's look at an example of how we can take two sets of information, set up some relations, some ordered pairs, and use that information to write a linear equation. Here's what I mean. So the camp program charges a registration fee and a daily amount. If the total bill for one camper was $338 for 12 days, and the total bill for another camper was $506 for 19 days, how much would it be for a camper who enrolls for 30 days? Well, remember, this is a relationship right here. And we can write it as an ordered pair because an ordered pair is a relation. Okay? Is 338 and 12 related to each other? Yes, it is. Here's the kicker. We've got to decide, do we write the ordered pair like this? So 338 represents our x and 12 represents our y. Or do we switch it around? What I want you to think of is the fact that, remember, x represents our independent variable. When we use slope-intercept form, we're plugging a value in for x to get y. So y is dependent on x. So look at this right here. $338 depends on 12 days. Meaning if I change 12 days to 7 days, the amount of money I'd have to pay would change. So the amount of money is dependent on the number of days we stay at camp. It makes sense. Okay, if you're going to go to a 7-day camp, that's going to cost less than if you go to a 30-day camp. So we want to set up a relation where days is our independent variable, it's our x, and the cost is our y variable. So we're going to want to use 12 days, $338. Okay, and likewise for this one here, we're also going to want to use 19 days, $506. So we set up this relation, and now we can use these two ordered pairs to write an equation. Remember, we need two things to write an equation. We need slope and y-intercept. Slope and y-intercept. If we can get those two things, we can write an equation. So let's start by finding our slope. Can we find the slope given 2 points? Absolutely. Use your slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Our 2 points here, this is the x value, this is the y value, x and y. And I'm just going to label this the first point and this the second point. y2 is 506 minus our y1, which is 338, over x2, which is 19, minus x1, which is 12. 506 minus 338 is 168. 19 minus 12 is 7. And if we take 168 and divide it by 7, we get an answer of 24. So our slope is 24. So now we have our slope, but we still don't have our y-intercept. But the good news is we have a slope and a point. And remember, we can find the y-intercept given a slope and a point. It doesn't matter which point you use. But let's take our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and plug in what we know. We know our m is 24, our slope. Using this point here, I know my x is 12, and I know my y value is 338. Given that information, I can solve for b. 338 equals 24 times 12, which is 288, plus b. To solve for b, I have to subtract 288 from each side. 338 minus 228, 338 minus 288 is 50. So our y-intercept is 50. So now I have a slope and a y-intercept. So going back to our equation here, we can rewrite our formula as y equals 24 times x plus 50. Now, since we're talking about the number of days and the total cost, it would probably be better to write this as cost equals 24 times the number of days plus 50, or as a function, the cost at d, so the cost at the number of days equals 24d plus 50. But really, they're all meaning the same thing. It's just depending on the variables you use. So don't get caught up in this part. Why would we want to write an equation now? Because now we can figure out how much it's going to cost for 30 days. We could figure out how much it's going to cost for 10 days. We could figure out how much it's going to cost for 15 days. Once you have an equation, we're able to figure out the cost for days. Okay? So all I have to do now is plug 30 in for D. And I'm going to use this last equation here. And I'm going to say the cost at 30 days is going to equal 24 times 30. Sorry, that's 50 there. 24 times 30 plus 50. And if you just type that into a calculator, you see that it's going to cost $770. So our cost at 30 days equals $770. And by finding that equation, it gives us the flexibility to find out what the cost would be dependent on the number of days you choose.